Hi Vikings, it's Hawkins again. Today we are working on document E for our DBQ of why did Islam spread so quickly? So, as always, anytime we have a text to read and then questions to answer, what do we have to do first? Read the questions. Thank you. So, follow along with me as we read the questions. Number 1, what was the Gasu? Number 2, nope, still number 1. Number 1 has 2 parts to the question. My bad. What was the Gasu and what was the Ummah? Number 2, what was the purpose of the Gasu in the years before Islam? Number 3, how did Islam change the way the Gasu worked? Number 4, why were the Arabs able to conquer much of Persia and parts of Byzantium? And number 5, based on this document, write a claim about what caused Islam to spread so quickly. Now I know there's not a ton of space on your paper, so if you need to, use the back. So we are looking for the Gasu, the Ummah, the purpose of the Gasu, how Islam changed the Gasu, and how the Arabs were able to conquer Persia and parts of Byzantium, right? And then after we have all that information in our brain spaces, then we will write a claim about what caused Islam to spread so quickly based on the information in this document and this document alone. So we've read the questions, we know what we're looking for. Now let's go ahead and read the text. This is from Karen Armstrong wrote it. She wrote it in her book, Islam, A Short History. It was published by Random House in the year 2000. Follow along with me as we read. For centuries, Arabs had added to their inadequate resources by means of the Gasu, or raids against other tribes. Now, you see, we have this word, we know that we're looking for this word, and we've got an explanation in the square brackets right next to it, right? So we know that raids against other tribes is a way to define Gasu. Yes, we got it? Cool. So let's start over. For centuries, Arabs had added to their inadequate resources by means of the Gasu, or raids against other tribes. But Islam had put a stop to this because the Ummah, or the Muslim community, was not permitted to attack one another. So we're going to pause right there. So that's number 1 and part of number 3, because it talks about Islam had put a stop to this because the Ummah was not permitted to attack one another. So that's part of number 3. As always, pause if you need more time. What would replace the Gasu, which had enabled Muslims, what would replace the Gasu, which had enabled Muslims to scratch out a meager livelihood? The obvious answer was a series of Gasu raids against the non-Muslim communities in the neighboring countries. The unity of the Ummah would be preserved by an outwardly directed offensive attack. There was nothing religious about these campaigns. The objective was plunder and a common activity that would preserve the unity of the Ummah. Now remember, friends, if you don't know what a word means, you're watching on a computer. Can you open a new tab and Google it? Good. The objective was plunder and a common activity that would preserve the unity of the Ummah. For centuries, the Arabs had tried to raid the richer settled lands beyond the Arabian Peninsula. The difference was that this time they encountered a power vacuum. Persia and Byzantium had both been engaged for decades in a long series of wars with one another. Both were exhausted. So think of it this way. Pretend you have 2 siblings, and I don't know what happened, but your siblings have been arguing all day long. And as they are arguing, they are bickering and they are screaming at each other and they are fighting each other. They may even be throwing things because they're middle schoolers and they're siblings and gosh knows. But they have been fighting all day long. And then, like from 6 o'clock in the morning until 6 o'clock at night. And then at 6 o'clock at night, you wake up. You had just taken a nap. You were like, oh, I'm tired of listening to them fight. I'm going to go take a nap. You woke up. And then, because you are also a middle schooler, you're like, ooh, I want to fight too. So, of the 3 of you, your brother and sister have been fighting all day long, and you, all 3 of you are in a fight now. Who do you think is going to win? Probably you. Why? Exactly. You haven't been fighting all day long. You're rested. You're not tired. You're probably going to take control of their lands. Control of their siblings. What? It was an allegory. That's number 4, friends. Okay. So you have all the information that you need. As always, if you have questions, please do not hesitate to ask. Questions? How do we answer questions, you ask? I'm so glad you asked. Thank you. That was a very good one. Remind me, you have a question to answer. What do you start with? What do you do first? Exactly, you restate the question. So if the question is, what was the Gasu? When you restate it, you would say, the Gasu was, and then you explain it. What was the Ummah? You restate it as, the Ummah was, and then you explain it. Number 2, what was the purpose of the Gasu in the years before Islam? Remember, we can move things around, right? So we could say, in the years before Islam, the purpose of the Gasu was, and then explain it. Okay? You remember how to do this. But for realsies, if you need help, feel free to ask. Be good people, make good choices. Go Vikings.